Welcome in. We're not as jovial as normal. This is All Tied Up, which feels like a metaphor right now. Clint, it was a bad Saturday in Nashville. You were there. I was not. Emotionally, I was in a much worse place than Nashville. And I think that probably is the same for a lot of Bama fans. First and foremost, how you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing, man?
So I'm like up and down with it. I'm up and down with it. I'm okay. There are some actual problems that need to be fixed and need to be addressed. And there are some concerning things that need to be addressed. But I also, listen, if Bama lost back-to-back games to Georgia and Vandy, the sky would be falling right now. But that's not what happened. And there's a lot of season. You have the 12-team playoff. I don't know, man. I'm not as bummed about it. There's just some shocking things that happened yesterday that were inexcusable as well.
I don't know if you got the memo, but what Alabama did in the first half versus Georgia, that team, you'll never see that team again. Like, that team's gone. And because they lost to Vanderbilt, how this works is anybody that is around Vanderbilt's talent level or below them, or above them, Alabama's going to lose to them too. So they're about to go. What are they right now? 4-1. So they're about to go 4-8. Wait, what?
They lost to Georgia State. They are 3-2.
No. I'm talking about Alabama.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I did. Alabama's not winning another game because everybody, except for Mercer, they still got Mercer potentially. Yeah. That's going to be a rocky one.
Mm-hmm.
But it does feel like that's what everybody's saying. Like, this team's terrible. They're going to lose to South Carolina. They're going to lose to everybody else in the schedule. And it's like, I get the emotion. I really do. But I mean, watching the game, did it not feel like, and a lot of people were upset that this is even getting talked about because it's Vanderbilt, but did it not feel like Vanderbilt was a pretty good football team?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I said this to the GF like pretty early on. I was like, I think Bama's going to lose. And usually, like, admittedly, if we're being like honest here, I have said that before, and I'm like, okay, I'm saying this purely as like a, like reverse, what's it called? Reverse psychology. Like, hopefully
reverse jinx.
Good. Yeah. Reverse jinx, trying to be like, make it like good luck, whatever. About the second time that I said it, we were in like the second quarter, and I meant it. I was like, because here's the thing. They were doing all the things that you do to lose football games. And I think that it's easy to sit here and be like, oh, well, Vandy sucks, because Vandy has sucked for most of our lives, like, in everything. I'm not saying this Vandy team's a world beater. They lost to Georgia State. They lost to Mizzou. Like, they're not a great football team. They have found ways to lose repeatedly. They just didn't find ways to lose against Alabama, man. Like, and a lot of that, like, a lot of that rests on Bama and the coaching staff and Kane Womack, looking at you, bud. But I do think that, like, I mean, dude, here's the bottom line. If they were playing Western Kentucky, right, or they were playing USF, and I said, hey, Clint, listen, I got the stat sheet ahead of time, man. I don't know what the script says, but the quarterback from USF is going to go 80% through the air and have no turnovers. They're gonna convert over 66% of their third downs.
12
of 18. Right?
Yes, 12. Not just 66%. That's not 2 out of 3. That's 12 out of 18, which is insane.
If that sounds a little bit alarming, it is, because Bama came in with the number one third down defense in the country, giving up only 16.9% and 11 total conversions all year. And they gave up 12 to Vandy on Saturday. They gave up 9 of their first 12 in the game. So if I told you all that, though, and then I said, oh, by the way, we're going to have a pick six of a tip ball, and there's going to be a drive, Clint, early on. It's going to be super fun. There's going to be a drive early on where Vandy's going to punt the ball twice and then have their offense back out on the field because of mistakes and flags that are going to turn the ball back over to Vandy. Like, no matter what logo is on the side of the helmet, you would look at that and be like, that's a recipe for disaster, man.
I would have honestly have said Alabama. You know what's crazy is because it was USF or Vanderbilt or whoever, I'd have been like, man, that's going to be a rough discussion when we talk about Alabama barely winning a football game against one of those schools. I still wouldn't have thought that Alabama would lose. And that's what I'll say. Like, it wasn't until, and I think everybody's pretty much on the same page. I feel like Alabama fans were very much in sync as far as just their mindset and stuff throughout that game. And when that fumble happened, Jalen Milroe was, the strip sack. I think every Alabama fan was like, we're in big trouble here. And that actually ended up being, in my opinion, I mean, there were several keys to the game, but or plays of the game, but that certainly plays into that, man. That was just Vanderbilt really was gifted some things early from Alabama. That is very true. That first drive, they were gifted a lot. The pick six, not the best decision. I think Milroe was late on it a little bit, but the fact that it bounced up like it did, pick six, that's kind of fluky. But from that point forward, really, Vanderbilt earned just about everything they got. It was not Alabama handing them just a ton. Maybe a thing, here or there. Maybe the refs helped them out here or there. You can make that argument if you want to. But as far as Vanderbilt earned pretty much everything, and that I think is the most concerning part to Alabama fans, is it wasn't just this game full of fluky things, like crazy things that happened. It was that Vanderbilt looked like the better football team. And I think that, compared to anything else, is why fans are in such panic mode today.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for you here for a second.
I was hoping you would.
Because I don't agree with you on when it was over. It was over on 4th and 1 when Diego Pavia rolled out to his left off his back foot, threw a dime, and they caught it. Because here's why. Look, I think at that point that makes the game 30-21, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So Bama gets the ball back at some point, and they're down. And before the fumble, right? When we were driving and they had the ball, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, honestly, if they score here and take the lead and get the 2-point conversion to go up by 3, there's no part of me that thinks this defense is going to stop them from getting to the 40-yard line to attempt a field goal to win it. Now, do we keep out of the end zone? Maybe, but I don't think that they're going to be able to stop them and keep them out of field goal range because they hadn't proven they could do it all day.
Well, I mean, and that's true. But the thing about it for me is there was still so much time left to where I felt like, okay, eventually Alabama's defense is going to start. Like, I did not think that what Vanderbilt was doing was going to last for 4 quarters. I kept thinking, man, it is crazy how long this has lasted.
Yeah.
What I will say is the second that Alabama kicked that ball off and didn't onside kick it, I knew the game was over right there. There was by that point, it had happened long enough, and I knew that there was 0 answers. I knew that the game was over, and it was Alabama had lost.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that decision-making at all. It just felt like, and this is the only way I know to describe it, it just felt like at no point did anyone wake up. And I think that it's a Sunday morning, or we're recording Sunday evening, like after the game. It's easy to sit here and point blame. There is some blame and some irrational overreactions that I think are honestly kind of valid and justified. Like, dude, I tell you what, we'll get to the Malachi Moore thing, I'm sure, at some point. I thought that was horse blank. I thought that, like, at one point, Bama's down 13-7 on that drive where they thought they were going to get over. I look over and I see that they show the sidelines and Ryan Williams and Red Morgan, who's not on the field. Red Morgan and Ryan Williams are laughing about something, and it's like, I'm not trying to sound like a boomer, but that's a bad look, brother. Like, that's a bad look to go in there and then not be able to, like, it'd be one thing if you at any point put your foot down and put the clamps down on them and turn this thing around, like we have seen Bama do 1,000 times. That's not what they did. At no point did they ever do that. It felt like I agree with you on the fact that I hated the decision not to onside kick. It felt like at the very least you need some sort of momentum change.
Well,
go ahead.
It's your best opportunity to get the football back based off of the way that the game was transpiring. Yeah. And it's like your chances of getting an onside kick are not good at all. So the fact that that's where you felt like it was your best chance is really saying something. Yeah. But also it was more of putting Vandy's offense in a situation where I wouldn't. That is a lot of pressure for a program and a team like Vandy, and they had handled that pressure extremely well throughout the game. And on that 4th and 1, it was not a we're going vertical. It was that's third option, and then he just made a hell of a play. But my point is that if you give them the football, if they do recover the onside kick, I wouldn't be shocked if they're like, let's waste as much clock as we can. Let's kick a field goal and let's get up 8 points here. That means they would have to score a touchdown and they would have to convert the 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if they settled for a field goal and Alabama was able to finally get the football back again with it just being a one-score game where they would have had an opportunity. So that was kind of, it's either you get the onside kick or they get it. But either way, I'm like, don't give them more room to get more first downs by kicking it deep, because they're going to do it. With the way that the defense was playing, they couldn't stop it. They had not figured it out. Guys weren't tackling well. Guys weren't playing assignment football. The wrinkles that Tim Beck was throwing in there was all of them were working. And so at the second they kicked it off, it was when I texted Mick and I said, hey, let's go ahead and jump on the live. And he's like, now? And I'm like, trust me, brother. Let's get ahead of this thing. This game is over. And that's exactly what ended up happening.
It's really sad to have to say that at any point in Alabama. This is one of the things I was saying earlier. I don't know if I said it off camera, if I said it on camera or whatever to you, but admittedly, like, Auburn girlfriend comes home and she's like, "Are you okay?" and like, listen, she showed up
too,
huh?
Don't act like you don't do that too.
Oh, without a doubt. But I do it to be a dick. She was doing it. I think she was genuinely concerned. She showed up with
I'd have been concerned for you too.
Yeah, you had the same response.
I did.
She showed up with a 12-pack and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "You're the best. I really appreciate that."
That was a good girlfriend.
But it was great. But I was sitting there thinking afterwards, I was like, man, it's just like, I don't know if I've been able to process it because I've never seen it in my life. Like, dude, I was doing a show with Chris Gordy, who does Locked On SEC last week, and we were sitting there talking. And he goes, "Yeah, the last time Vandy beat Bama," he's like, I'm 38, and I'm like, I'm thinking about, I'm racking my brain. I'm like, I don't surely it had to happen in my lifetime because I've been to a bunch of Bama games. We grew up poor, man. Bama Vandy was the game we always went to, and or La Tech, which was a nightmare in the late '90s. But we went to Bama Vandy a bunch, and I was like, I don't think we ever lost to him. It's like, you haven't lost him since 1984. And then that was the other part of it too. That was like, I did a deep dive on this, Clint, and maybe I shouldn't have, because it might have made my feelings feel a little bit better about it. But brother, we looked at this game and the stats that came along with it, and I'm gonna throw out some numbers to you, and like, it's startling, right? Like, it's not just the first upset ever for a number one team from Vandy. Not the fact that they're now 1-60 against top 5 teams. Not the fact that you haven't lost them in 40 years. How about the fact that number one ranked teams against unranked opponents were 364-2 against unranked teams when scoring 35 points or more? Not anymore. And like, how about the fact that the third? I already talked about the third down conversions. How about the fact that defense has only allowed 3? They've forced 3 punts in the last 16 possessions, dating back to the second half against UGA. And here's the thing: you can sit here and look all you want to, be like, oh my God, Bama's given up this many pass yards, this many points in the last 6 quarters, because Georgia fans are having a field day with it. But if we're trying to reset, let's also look at the anomaly of something that happened. And I am not making excuses for any of these hold on. Excuse my language. Caught myself.
I feel you, my dude.
I'm not making excuses for any of these people, coaches, players, any of it. But hear me out. Bama ran 44 total plays. 44. That's the fewest amount of plays they have run in the last decade at least. That's as far back as I can get the numbers. They ran 31 less plays than Vandy. Vandy ran the football 54 times, and they held the ball for over 42 minutes.
42 minutes is wild.
Dude, you could see it from the third quarter, and it was a smart job from Clark Lee. So credit to him. Like, they had a plan. Bama didn't have a plan. And the things that pissed me off the most about it was, I don't blame Kalen DeBoer for anything outside of what he wore. And I'm glad that got brought up on social media, because that looked effing ridiculous. But I don't care how that sounds. Dude, I got blasted on Feinbaum earlier this summer because I made a comment. I was like, I don't love the fact that he wears cargo shorts, but that's the only thing that concerns me. We're like, oh, you have no concerns about the only thing is about what he wears. Like, what kind of crap is this? And it's like, well, now it's like a huge problem. This fashion is bad.
Amazing what happens when you lose.
Yeah, right. No, but then the other part of it, man, is Kane Womack never had an answer schematically for what happened. It felt like they never prepared for what Vandy's offense truly was. And then the other problem I had with it is our receivers coach, Marcus Shepard.
Yeah.
He made the comment, and it got me fired up when I heard it, Clint. I said, because it was like, all right, classic letdown spot, classic trap game, whatever you want to say. You just beat Georgia, huge emotional win. The way they won it, especially now, you got to go to Vandy. It's a sleepy game. It's in Nashville, like blah blah blah. And he made the comment, he's like, there's no choice but to move on. There's no choice but to focus on Vandy. And I was like, that got me fired up. I was like, that's what I want to hear out of the.
He essentially said it was a dictatorship. He's like, this is not a democracy. We're moving on. This is a demand. So yeah, he didn't just say like we don't have a choice. Like, no, I mean, yeah, he was very much like, oh no, this is 1,000% happening. We're moving on.
And I don't know if the blame falls on him or the players or the disconnect in between those words and the actual part of them coming true and being held to the standard applies. But I do know that words have much less meaning than actions. And at some point in a 60-minute football game, someone should have bowed their neck or put their effing foot down and figured out a way not to lose this game. Malachi Moore, brother, I'm glad you're fired up that we lost. Not glad about all the missed tackles. Not glad all the missed assignments. It'd be one thing. Listen, if that's Deontay Lawson out there, if that's you know what the worst thing I saw on Saturday was, Clint. The worst thing and I'll get off the soapbox after this. The worst thing I saw on Saturday was at one point Vandy ran a play, and it was like around the 30-yard, like our 20 or 30-yard line. Pavia rolls out to his left, and then he hits a back in the flat. Right, the play got called back for holding, but it was a touchdown originally. And I watched Jahad Campbell Olay a tackle and miss. I feel like it was him, and I shouldn't discredit this kid because I don't remember if it was exactly him, but just from the other things I saw, it would make sense. I felt like Damani Jackson wanted no part of contact on it, and you just watch this man run into the end zone on third down or something like that on for 20-something plus yards. Where's the physicality? Where's the leadership? Where's the physicality? That was the thing that was concerning the most, because you can stamp your feet and kick the ball and do whatever the hell else you want to do, Malachi Moore. But you also have to show, dude, this is a young secondary. It's the worst part of this team. It's the most inexperienced part of the team. At some point, someone has to step up. And I don't give a blank if it's Reuben Foster and Ronnie Harrison fighting on the sidelines. I would much rather see that than the shit I saw on Saturday.
I don't disagree at all. And that's kind of I'd wondered with Nick Saban, certain guys, and I had heard that during the Saban era, there was some rat trap situations that kind of, there was some that was put out. It was by like an assistant or something. It might have been Cochran that did it. I don't remember. But, someone did correct and say they absolutely used rat traps while Saban was there. I don't think Saban really had any part of that, though.
No.
I think when he played good cop, bad cop really well. He was, to put it bluntly, he was an asshole in games like this. Like Jake Coker talked about it with Mick. Just when he was a complete jerk the entire week as they were practicing. Nobody could do anything right. He was mad. He was obviously always getting into it with the media or going off on the media for, pretty much he would pick even, a lot of times it was warranted. About 99% of the time it was warranted. But if no one gave him something that was worth jumping them about, he creates something.
Right.
It was a constant reminder, and it was a serious reminder. Do you think that just with Kalen DeBoer's approach, which is different, and now everybody's questioning everything. Everybody's questioning the music. They're questioning, and I don't think that is the extent is really fair. But at least for conversational purposes, do you think that it felt more like the rat traps were kind of thrown out there as more of it's almost like you're having to do this because Vanderbilt is such a joke. You know what I'm saying? Does that actually end up, can you do too much of that where it sends the wrong message? You're trying to remind guys to take them seriously, but it's like you're doing if a rat trap's funny. It's not Nick Saban going postal on you for no reason, and you don't understand why. And you're trying to keep straight all week. It's more of a laid back, joking approach. Do you think there's a such thing as too much of that without the bad cop in the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think threats have to have consequences, and I think Bama. It just seemed very clear that the entire game they went out there with the mindset of at some point someone else is going to step up, or Jalen Milroe is going to save us. I'll tell you the biggest. I don't care. The biggest bullshit of this whole thing is the fact that Jalen Milroe's Heisman odds dropped so significantly, because all that kid did was go out there and go 75%, 2 touchdowns. Like, dude, they had the ball for 17 minutes and 52 seconds. The offense did every single thing it could have done outside of the pick six, and I thought they did. Like,
a lot of fans agree.
It was so bad defensively, and it was bad on things that, like, I tell you why Kane Womack is in a bad spot right now with Bama fans. It's because they lost to an option team. Just as well as me is how many kids and how many people who played high school football had to go up against some BS triple option team. So it's like, you don't talk about the armchair quarterbacks, man. The armchair defensive coordinators coming out of the woodwork from 2A from Wetumpka that are pissed about, you got to sit the edge or what the hell. You got to keep contained. You got the pitch man or like whatever.
As I was watching it yesterday, and I thought about bringing this up earlier, never really got a chance to when I was recording with Mick. And now you bring that up, and now I feel terrible bringing this up. But when we played in the state championship,
I knew it,
against Eufaula, Courtney Upshaw was on that team. Yeah. Jarrell Jernigan, who ended up playing at Troy, ended up getting drafted in the 3rd round by the New York Giants. He was their triple option quarterback, and they were really, really good at it. We had lost 3 games. They were undefeated, had just destroyed everybody they had played. We ended up winning the game. And it was just, there was such an emphasis on responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do not try to do anybody else's job. If someone else isn't getting the job done and it's a problem, you just keep doing yours and let us coaches fix it. We will we'll figure out a way to get that job fixed. But the second you stop, doing your job to try to compensate and do someone else's, then they bust you. Yeah. And that is like the number one thing is like that night, everybody was on the same page defensively. William Ming was on that team. Alfred McCullough was on that team. Robbie Ezell was the quarterback, but really defensively is where it started.
That's your high school team?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason we won state. I mean, we lost 3 games, but it was a really good group. But the assignment football, the definition of it, everybody did their job consistently, and Eufaula couldn't do anything. Yeah. Plus, there was 2 really great signs: you lead, we follow. And then you follow on your face. I remember those. Anyway,
time to move on, Clint.
But anyways, the point is, when you play these styles of offense, that is what you have to do. You got a dive man, you got a pitch man, and you got a quarterback. Yeah, it's the one that's got quarterback. And really, it's more than that. Like a lot of your interior defensive linemen, your off-ball linebackers, their dive. Your defensive end's going to be, typically like inside shoulder of the quarterback. You're going to have your alley player, your safety coming up, being on the pitch man. And then you're going to have the safety who's playing off the ball. He's got enough time to play, quarterback to pitch. And he's going to be on the outside shoulder of the quarterback to the inside shoulder of the pitch man. And so you've got 1.5 for the quarterback. You've got 1.5 for the pitch guy, and you've got dive covered. What I will say is the defensive line at times was getting blown off the football. Yeah. The linebackers were catching, and a lot of it is you're slow playing everything. It's very, very hard to be aggressive against the triple option. But in all fairness, Vanderbilt wasn't just triple option. No. Like, it will spread you out. They will sling the football around. This is in Georgia Tech. This is in one of the naval academies. This is a team that's they use that as a tool, but it is not their offense. It's not all of their offense. And so there were opportunities in other situations to get some stops, and it didn't feel like the defense really had an answer pretty much all night, and that was a major, major problem.
Yeah, I thought that also it was like one of the things that I think that really bothered me about it was the assignment football was bad, and and the answers, the lack of answers, really, because it was like it did at one point. It like when they got to 23-21, it was like, okay,
Yeah.
just get a stop, get the ball back. I don't remember when we got the ball back after that, but it was like 3 minutes to go. In the third quarter.
Oh yeah.
It felt like, at least. They just, again, but you have to credit them. And I think, listen, I think in the grand scheme of things, this is a huge wake up call, and for a good reason, right? Like, it's too early for me to sit here and look at this, Clint, and be like, you know what? Bama's out of the playoff, because the brilliant part of it is that you just beat Georgia. Dude, if Georgia goes 11-1, like if they beat Texas and roll Ole Miss and all that kind of crap, and then like that resume builder looks good. The Vandy thing it's weird and inexcusable and all that kind of stuff, but you still, all you need to do is go 6-1 the rest of the way, and I think you're absolutely in the playoff. I said before the season I thought 9-3 made the most sense, and my dumbass yesterday was like, dude, what if? I think I said to my mom, who doesn't care about college football, I was like, what if we just hired the next Saban? Like, what if we just don't lose? And she was like, okay. That's not what happened.
She knew.
Like,
she knew. That's what it was.
Dude, she wasn't overlooking Vandy at all. I'll tell you that right now. But no, I just, it felt like looking at it that there was a letdown somewhere. And all I really want, man, like all I really want is some effing accountability from someone, whether it's like the coaching staff, and I haven't heard all the things that they have said yet. And I, from like the players, I know
Booker.
Tyler Booker said something. Tyler Booker said something about how he's like, we have the script A on our jersey, and we just think that means we can walk out there. We have to play to the standard. I'm glad to hear all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing: this is a new era of college football. It's definitely a new era of Alabama football. It's time now. You have the wake up call. And now you can't go out there and lose to Oklahoma or like you have ruined your chance at like, dude, you were so far ahead of the curve with that win. You had the best odds to make the playoff. It was like 91.4%. You let a week of focus and lack thereof and like stuff like that, like it got in your head and got in the way. And that's fine. Listen, dude, like I played baseball in college. We had to play a bazillion games. There was multiple times we were playing inferior teams and we just weren't awake. And then somebody had to get the bats going. And usually that meant that I had to get pinch hit for. But that's neither here nor there. But I mean, like that kind of stuff would happen. And it's like, it's a long season, but someone had to stop the bleeding on Saturday and they didn't. And someone in that coaching staff is going to have to be held accountable and say, hey, listen, like I hope y'all are having fun. It's not worth doing if you're not having fun. But you know what's more fun than the NIL money and playing the music at practice or whatever, and all the shit talk they did during the game?
A lot.
They just didn't stop. You know what's more fun than that? At the end of the game, looking up and seeing the number that's under your team with a bigger number than the one next to it. Go win a ball game, dude. Like, so I think that's the wake up call that has to happen, and they better get their minds right, because Neyland's going to be, dude. This is now this is a potential like win or go home type game now in Neyland. Like, I mean, well, just let me be dramatic about it. But I think that they have to have that mindset of like, you cannot go in there like all pensive and what happened in 2022. And it's like, they felt, anxious and full of anxiety, I think is what Saban said. But outside of that, man, if I'm being honest about it, as a fan, and maybe I'm just a bad fan, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm an adult now, and I had a hard time watching the end of it and not having just part of me being like, listen, Clark Lee had the game plan. Diego Pavia went 80%. They kept the ball for 42 minutes. Bottom line, on this Saturday, Vanderbilt kicked your ass. Tip of the cap. I enjoy the celebration. It's awesome for y'all. It's an incredible thing for college football. It was cool to watch, from the outside looking in, even though it hurt as a Bama fan. Watch them drag they dragged those what do you call it? Goalposts like 3 miles, brother. Like that was That's a workout right there.
Where did all those fans come from? Because they weren't in the stadium.
There was multiple videos that came out. That was like, I'm not even a student here. I'm just here. Like, it's just like taking things
It's just
out.
Nashville. People are just hanging out. It's a bunch of country singers. We're wannabe country singers, man. Everybody wanted to get in on it. I did.
Bryant.
Hey, and I think in a lot of ways, man, when you like watch, I think there will not be a time this year where really it's worse. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
It's like
no, speak on that. I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like when it's the first time you get hit in the face and you realize getting hit in the face is not all that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I was terrified to fight anybody until I got hit in the face for the first time, and then I'm like wanting to fight everybody because it's really not that bad.
What are you talking about right now?
There's a method.
I want to fight everybody.
It's never as bad as you think it's going to be. When you're, I think a lot of the anxiety with past teams was always like, what was that going to feel like if we ever find ourselves in that situation?
Yeah.
And now they found themselves in that situation, and it's like, it's not good. It's really bad. People are not happy. A lot of criticism and stuff on social media. You probably need to be staying away from it.
Yes.
But what it is like you've gone through it and you're good. Like you're coming out the other side of it. So I think from that standpoint, like the anxiety and stuff, and I could be way off in left field here, but it just feels like you can always go back to. I mean, I wouldn't say this is like. I mean, it's pretty close to rock bottom. All right. Yeah. I mean. So I think that in some ways that can be beneficial if you'll let it. I do worry about the offense in the sense, and a lot of people want, I agree, 35 points in 17 minutes is incredible. I mean, that's 2 points a minute. And the offense is so far from being the main issue. I would say about 85% is the defense. But we got to point out where the offense needs to get better, and that's you need to be able to play some ball control offense.
Yeah.
If your defense has been on the field for 17 straight plays, you can't go out there and either go 3 and out, which is what they did a bunch, or score in 2 minutes. You cannot do it. No. You need to give them some time to catch their breath because that's only going to compound on them as the game goes on. That's only going to get worse. And so everybody that is only singing the offense's praises in comparison, I understand. Right. But to say that the offense can't be working on anything or it doesn't have anything to improve or any way that it can help in these situations in the future, to me, that's inaccurate. And that's why I just think that both sides of the football, the offense doesn't need to be going into practice on Monday saying this is all the defense's fault. No. There's enough there where you can say, well, there's some stuff we got to get together as well. Is there anything else that you want to add to the conversation before we hop out of here, brother?
Yeah, real quick. I don't know what the hell you were just talking about getting hit in the face. That was a lot. Just a lot
of telling you what happened. Sometimes everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth. But
I wish you would have just said that instead of, and then I got hit in the mouth. I don't want to fight everyone.
That is true. Everybody's terrified of what they don't know. That is the whole point. Everybody is terrified. And the second that there's a freaking Andy Griffith show about this, about Opie getting bullied. And then as soon as he gets hit in the mouth, he's like, "Oh, this wasn't that bad."
Well,
it's exactly how it is.
That came out the last time Bama lost to Vandy. So there's that.
That is actually fairly close. Yeah.
I will say this. I think that there's a lot to learn from this game. I think they will. I'm excited for what comes next. Now, here's the thing. Moving forward, I do think that what you said is like Tennessee presents a lot of problems because Tennessee's a good football team. South Carolina, to be honest, like I host Locked On South Carolina. Like I'm very familiar with the team. This is a win. Like this is a
Let's not do that.
It's a matchup. It's a perfect matchup for Bama.
Okay, let's at least.
And they're at home. But so here's the thing. The 2 games that you have a lot of concern with left is Tennessee, LSU. LSU on the road, we'll see what that looks like when they get there, especially with the fact that like that defense has not been great. But here's the thing. Even with Tennessee, even with Auburn, even with the road game at Oklahoma, even with Missouri coming to town, all those teams that on paper that's a difficult schedule to close out with, none of them, and I never thought I would say this, but none of them pose the same threat that Vandy did. And that sounds weird to say, and I'm not excusing a loss of Vanderbilt, but what I am saying is like, listen, we got torched for 323 yards rushing that one time against Georgia Southern in 2010, right? Like they ran all over 2011 or whatever it was. And that's the 10 horn game or whatever that Saban referenced, whatever. Like no other teams did that. Like there were no other teams that had that kind of offense set up. And I'm not trying to praise Vandy and say like, oh my gosh, like, luckily this one's out of the way. That was a nightmare. But there's no one else that runs shovel passes and option runs and all that kind of stuff like anymore. So they need to figure out, get some stuff fixed. Because I will say this too, Clint, and the last thing is, I think the defense has a lot to improve on, but at some point you would have to imagine that Ryan Williams is not going to descend from the clouds like the guardian angel of this offense that he has become on 3rd and long and make some ridiculous play to score a touch. At some point, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And
so,
would you take Kirby Smart as Alabama's coach right now?
I don't know if I should answer that on being
just be honest. I would say his first season at Georgia, you lose to Vanderbilt, you lose to Georgia Tech, you almost get beat by Nichols. It was 26-24 was the final score.
Yep.
And you go 7-5 in the regular season, 8-5 total. And anybody that's laughing about that, saying, wow, are you really going to compare what's going on right now to Georgia's first season?
He's cracking up back here.
Imagine, and that's going to be a lot of people's reaction, but imagine Georgia people, the second that all that happened to Kirby Smart back in 2016, saying, I mean, can you remember Nick Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year, and he went 7-6. Everybody was like, shut the and everybody would have been that thought you were crazy.
Right.
So my point is that everybody, and this is not Alabama was a terrible program when, it was in a real rough shape when Saban took it over. Kirby took over a Georgia that had won 10 plus wins in 4 of the previous 5 years, had been to an SEC championship 4 years prior, and had, I think, 3 or 4 straight. Really, it was much longer than that. But I'm just talking about the players that Kirby had, 4 straight top 10 recruiting classes. So he took over a pretty darn good program, and then he went 7-5 in the regular season and had a bunch of not good performance.
They lost to Vanderbilt because he had Nick Chubb and Sonny Michel on that team, and he ran a 4th and 1 like jet sweep or some crap like that to Isaiah McKenzie.
Great recall. Yeah, you're 100% correct. So my point is, even the greats, I mean, everybody goes through this, and I'm not saying, Kalen DeBoer is going to be just fine. I'm just saying it's too premature to say that he's not going to be fine. So let's just nobody freak out. Once again, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I'm done. You ruined it after that, so that was good. If you want to stay on for the next 5 minutes to talk about your high school glory days, you can do that, though.
Were you not the one that was just talking about your college team?
Shut up. Shut up, Clint. That's what I got pinch hit for.
Anyways, just want to point that out. Chris, despite the fact that you're very hypocritical sometimes, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Shut up.
I'm just kidding. Despite that, I still love you. I still appreciate you hopping on here with me. Appreciate everybody who listened in. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go subscribe at covercrimson.com. It's only $1 for the first month. And Chris, we will talk again soon, brother.
Sounds good, brother. Talk to you then.